So Nikunj, you are from Sagar, Defense Engineering. You are an expert in the maritime and the underwater domain. So would you like to tell us what are your niche technology products? What is the indigenization content? You know the thought process of the MOD regarding the indigenization of the drones. And what action is Sagar Defense Engineering doing to get the niche technologies into our country?
Thank you so much, sir. As you said, what Sagar Defense is doing for the niche technology to bring it in the country. So I'll just start कि हम ही हम है तो क्या हम है, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो. So it's not Sagar Defense Engineering. Again, I would come across it's the armed forces for us. Our learning has been again from the armed forces, and due to them, we have been started doing something very different on the niche side, and something from the Navy. So when we started off, especially in the drone vertical, when we started off with that, it was more on the army, and we understood that in the army, the drones are operated from the land base. That means you take off from one place and you come back and land again. What happened is when the Navy came up with the query, the Navy had a different concept. They said, look, it's great. Our land is a ship. It has all 6 degrees of freedom of motion, and it keeps moving. Now, this was a challenge which was thrown across to us, and that means if the fleet is moving, as I said yesterday, also at 12 knots or 15 knots, then all the warships are moving at that speed. So that means your failsafe changes, your technology requirement changes, and you could not be only dependent on a GPS. That means if you have a GPS failure, if you're an outage due to EM and EMC, especially on a warship across, how do you land back? So you have to think actually across, talk a lot to the user in close cooperations, and we went for 8 certain sea trials in these ops. I will tell you, out of these 8, 7 we lost our platforms. And especially when we were at 20 kilometers away, ditched in the water. So we used to smile. So we were asked, Nikunj, why are you smiling? I said, sir, एक test अच्छा हो रहा है कि वो डूब जा रहा है. That is what it was designed for.
You have 1 minute more.
And this is where the crux of landing and taking off was done across. This helped us to scale it to the army because tanks need it. And tanks is a hard iron again. So certain technologies like this, which has been...
What is the IC content of your product?
So in our case, if we leave the motor and propeller, we are there at 90%.
What is percentage?
90%.
What do you import?
A motor and propellers?
What's stopping it to be made in India?
One is a huge amount of investments, and that is something would require. So if you have to set up a motor propeller division, you need investments.
So we take it that Sagar Defense Engineering is making products which are 90% indigenized.
That is correct.
So that's a world record. Congratulations. Great to hear that.
Of late, the drone industry, the WhatsApp University, as you're aware, there's a lot of issue of cartelization, bid rigging, which is really getting a very a name which is not correct, I would say. So is this just media hype? Is this certain warring factions just trying to sort each other out on the WhatsApp University? Or is there any truth in this? What are views on the use of the Indian industry using sourcing components from our adversaries? Because there are some inputs to say that maybe we may be using drones, but because of the embedded sensors, our information would be going to them rather than we. And there are inputs of DJI drones being given, and the industry keeps telling us. So bid rigging, cartelization, sourcing of components from our adversaries. What is your take on that?
बड़े शायर की एक छोटी शायरी है. बर्बाद गुलिस्ता करने के लिए बस एक उल्लू ही काफ़ी है. हर साख पे उल्लू बैठा है. अंजाम गुलिस्ता क्या होगा? I think this is something an industry has to learn from and keep this in mind. When we talk about these are very big words. We are in a very nascent stage right now, and people would be taking certain opportunities. Let me be proactive about it and say that competition is not there in certain sector of birds, and the RFP states that you need to be L1, you need 2 or 3 bids for it, and then you don't have a player bidding there. How does the contract go across? So, the lunch we were having a discussion that it's collaboration or consolidation. What is it exactly, or is it cartelization? So it could be a consolidation also. How does the bid open? So it's a two-sided coin. We'll have to look into it that perspective. Coming to the latter part, yes, Chinese components, very important to be kept in mind as long as they follow this process in DRDO especially. they look at it programmable and non-programmable components, whether it's a dumb component or a programmable component. If you are going to mess across with the programmable component with having it from the adversaries, yes, you're killing yourself. And that could be pretty bad, because right from IR signatures, right over taking over your platform, especially people use in communication lines. And we talk about AS 128 or 1024 bit, people actually not having any idea about it. And you fly this over the borders, somebody will just hijack you in and bring you in. So this is something, this check has to be done, and that's pretty right, as we talking about certification, standardization, and having the right testing setup. If that comes into place, many of these would be killed off. Right.
Okay, thank you, Nikunj. IDEX score is a gentleman from Zupa who has recommended to us as part of the think tank that let the IDEX score be for getting this technology of drones, subsystem and components. Like we have a lot of conversations on the DFI group. Who will build the cat? You know, the end user, the Army, Navy, Air Force, all, I don't see any Navy, only Army and Air Force guys here. So probably Navy is doing a very good job. And but कौन बनाएगा autopilot? कौन बनाएगा आपका EOIR sensor? वो तो कोई end user आपको बताएगा नहीं. तो क्या करें इसका? निकुंज, आप बताएंगे?
Sir, what he has written about the IDEX score is again a fantastic approach. That means assemblies and sub-assemblies into it. When we talk about manufacturers doing their own autopilots or command control systems, we are one of those manufacturers doing that, especially for the maritime purpose. But it's not something which is built overnight. It took us close to 13 years.
How is this idea firstly?
Idea is fantastic, because once you have the IDEX code, that means you build up the sub-assembly, and on top of it, you build up the bigger assembly, that is systems of subsystems, and then you go for actually platform formation.
So you are part of DFI. Can I request you, Avdesh is also DFI. So why don't you or an industry chamber give to us a proposal from an industry chamber or DFI as to what are the pluses and minuses? I've already had a word with the Joint Secretary DIP, right? So I think IDEX score is a wonderful idea coming from the industry. And I think all of you, are big stakeholders. And if you really want to let this go, I think we need to have a firm proposal after having brainstormed between the drone manufacturers, and I think it can be given to us. Is that workable?
Yeah, sure, sir. That is.
Yeah. Nikunj, what is your take on the PLI scheme?
PLI scheme is fantastic, sir. Especially for manufacturers like us, which have started off and they have just come up. So, it acts as an incentive that if you scale in it and if your IC contents are higher, the returns are very good. It has taken time to money to kick into account, but as it is in the nascent stage, yes, those difficulties would be there. And we are already...
Are you going in for patents?
Absolutely. We have close to 76 patents, in which 6 have been globally published.
Is patent, to take a patent in India a problem?
Negative, sir, we don't see that as a problem. It's well supported by Startup India, Invest India, and also by the state you are in certain scenarios. So government of Maharashtra also gives you fund, and when you go for global patents, equally funding is given by the government. So you get a good return of close to 80% on your patents, especially when you're applying for. So the patent support is very well here in the country.
Okay.